Hey everyone, welcome to the ATDev Podcast. So happy to be joined today by Jean Minkel, a longtime assistive technology pioneer and physical therapist. Hey Jean, how you doing today?
I'm great, Owen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you, and I hope you're not able to hear my dog barking in the background, but
We
he
all
wants
love dog barks, but I can't hear it.
all right, good. He wants to be on the podcast too. But yeah, it'd be great if you could give a little background on yourself and yeah, just talk a little bit about your career.
Sure. First of all, Owen, thanks so much for the invitation. I'm a long believer in the greatest educators around assistive technology are the people that use the technology on a regular basis. So I just try and listen and then apply and amplify those voices at any time that I can. I appreciate the chance to connect with you around assistive technology. And my area of clinical expertise is actually seating and wheeled mobility.
Yeah,
So, by way of a little bit of a background, I started my career working with children with disabilities. It's a pretty unique facility outside of Boston called the Massachusetts Hospital School. And
yeah,
the beauty of the school was it was a campus. So the kids lived there, they went to school, they had therapy, and there was recreation. And oftentimes, when you follow the track back of why is an OT doing seating or why is a PT doing seating, it goes back to some director liked doing technology and another director didn't. So I was lucky enough that at the hospital school, PT took care of the wheelchairs. And I soon found out that a rock socket wrench set was going to be a really helpful tool for me. And that was the beginning of my journey into rehab engineering slash assistive technology.
yeah,
And as a clinician, I just loved bridging that gap between functional need and technology opportunities.
mm,
And I was able to continue along that line when I moved to New York. I moved to Blythedale Children's Hospital originally because there was a PT there by the name of Adrian Bergen. And Adrian was a therapist who recognized therapeutically, if we replace the sling seat and the sling back of the old folding wheelchairs, we could provide somebody a stable base of support.
yeah,
And from Blythedale, I was able to join a terrific rehab engineer by the name of Martin Ferguson Pell, and we created a Center for Rehab Technology. And it was a multidisciplinary department. So, augmentative communication, orthotics, prosthetics, seating and wheeled mobility, rehab engineering for when there was no device, and even environmental controls. And at Helen Hayes, I had a chance to work with both inpatients and outpatients. And in the outpatient area is really where I was educated and so appreciative of the experience of people who had lived with their disability, who
yeah,
would then come and say, you know, this is what's working, this isn't what's working. I need your help with my postural support, or I'm having a problem with a wound and I never had that problem before, or my chair's 10 years old. I just want to replace my chair. Yeah, you can't replace a 10-year-old chair. So, how can I get one as close as possible? And
yeah,
it was in that I like to reflect and say, I evolved from being an expert to being a partner.
mm,
And to me, if you're going to be successful in assistive technology, you have to recognize a partnership
right,
because the person using the device is the only one that can tell you what are their expectations, what have they used and haven't worked before. One of my favorite questions in an eval is, what's working for you that you don't want me to mess up?
yeah,
And really start from a place of partnership. I was very fortunate while at Helen Hayes. to somebody reach out to me and asked if I did any consulting work. So sure. It
Yeah.
turned out to be Johnson, and they were working with Dean Kamen in the development of what would become the iBot wheelchair. And at the very beginning, there was a little metal platform. As a developer, you'll appreciate this little metal platform
Yeah.
with two struts and two sewing machine motors attached to wheels. But the innovation was a gyroscope. And the story behind it was Dean, who's a very innovative engineer, was outside of the Mall of New Hampshire, and he was watching a fellow trying to pop a wheelie to get over a 4-inch curb.
Mm.
And it wasn't an easy pop. And Dean said, there has to be an easier way. And he kept trying the kind of exoskeletons to maximize people's mobility. And one morning, he slipped in the shower and caught himself. And he had
Mm.
this eureka moment of it's about controlling instability that allows effective mobility.
Ah,
And that was the genesis of both Segway and iBot, which is still great
interesting.
technology. Unfortunately, like many really ingenious solutions for people with disabilities, the iBot got caught up in Centers for Medicare and Medicaid funding fee schedule problem. But we'll have to do a
Yeah.
whole nother podcast on those challenges.
Yeah.
So after bringing the iBot to market, I got a very unique chance to join an organization that was supporting people with long-term physical disabilities to live in their own homes in New York City.
Mm.
So we used their Medicaid benefit, and I was given the chance to go into people's homes. Again, what's working, what's not working. And we did everything from what's your transfer status, how's the access to your bathroom, what's your ingress and egress from your building, what kind of mobility device do you need. And what was really wonderful, this company is called Independence Care System, and truly based on the needs of people living with a disability. And what I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
We were using people's Medicaid, and Medicaid is known for their rules and regs. And we were told we couldn't be more restrictive than Medicaid, but we could be more generous.
Oh, that's
Okay,
nice.
that's nice. So when someone came to me and said, I'd like you to repair my old power chair so that I have a backup power chair. And I have to tell you, after 20 years of saying no to things like that because it's not a covered benefit, I went to the head of the company. I said, this is what the person's asking for. We both looked at each other and said, that seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so we created a backup repair program for people that relied on wheeled mobility. And I'm incredibly proud to tell you that we took that experience, we provided that service for 20 years, from almost 25 years. We actually made a request to the New York State Medicaid program as their base benefit. And starting in January of 2026, as a New York State Medicaid beneficiary, you can get a backup power chair repaired.
Mm. Amazing.
So just,
Yeah, that's how it should be.
and it's such mobility is a human right. So you
Yeah.
should be able to move around, particularly if repairs are going to take any more than a day, which we
Yeah.
know it takes 90 days. So awful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. You've had such a bird's eye view of how assistive technology and complex rehab wheelchairs have evolved or not evolved over the years. And your work iBot is really interesting. And ATDev, we have taken a design philosophy where when we're building a new product, we really look at what is reimbursable by insurance and bring that into the design phase because if nobody can afford it, it doesn't really help anyone. And I'm curious, what things have you seen or lessons have you learned from your career seeing these things evolve that companies today might be able to learn from?
I'm going to respond a little bit where I began.
Yeah,
I very early in my career, many of the quote manufacturers were addressing a specific need. So, for example, in the wheelchair cushion world, there was Roho and they were foam cushions. Like all the choices that we have now really were not around.
yeah,
But when Robert Graby started Roho, he was really looking to use excellent engineering to provide an effective means of redistributing pressure in a method that was functional for somebody in a wheelchair. And I always love the description of Roho is actually what they call dry flotation
hmm,
because he observed if you wanted to completely even the pressure distribution across a seated person, you would sit them in a bucket of water.
yeah,
But a
yeah.
bucket of water in a power chair isn't a great design. So, how can he create dry flotation? And
Interesting.
from that dedication to trying to solve the needs of a person sitting in a wheelchair came the J products. And the story behind J is Rick J was a guy who literally was a ski bum. He worked for a company called the Hanson Ski Boots. They had this
Oh yeah.
material called Flow Light, and he said, "Hey, you guys have this for skiing and recreation, what have you. Will you give me the medical rights?" The brothers didn't
Huh.
care. And he created the envelopment of flow light in a containment base. And
Huh. How
then
interesting.
there was another gentleman, Greg Peak, who now does dynamic systems, but he had a
Oh
company
yeah.
called Layback, and he created power seating. So as I was maturing as a clinician, I was working with developers that were solving end user problems.
Yeah.
And as the industry has matured, I'm afraid there's been much more emphasis on who is the payor or what does the clinician think. And I want to rattle some of these designers and say, could you go into the field and watch somebody function
Hmm.
in the device that you think you're developing?
Yeah.
And so I ask people all the time when they show me a piece of technology, what's the problem you're trying to solve and who has that problem?
Yes.
And can we go talk to them? So I think we're too caught up in it is important. You have to have a market. So you're not ATDev has an important pillar in your design phase to say what's the reimbursability of this.
Yeah.
But I see way too many innovations coming that are really built to a code and not
Yeah.
to a need.
Yeah.
And then the problem is a lot of needs are not then addressed because, quote unquote, there isn't a code.
Yeah. Yeah. You really need to take a holistic view of a
Absolutely.
person, and I think the continuity of care is something that I'm really excited about. I think there's probably never been a better time to be a power wheelchair user, despite all of the problems that we have so much in Rojo and custom seating and actuated seating. I am completely paralyzed and I'm able to be very comfortable throughout the whole day without ever getting out of my chair, which is truly remarkable. And yeah, on one hand, I don't think has been a better time to be a person with a disability, but at the same time, I think we have a long ways to go. And I'm really excited by, a lot of the technology advances that I've seen in my own life, Bluetooth, being
Right.
able to use a computer wirelessly, that
Yep.
has really enabled me to run a company.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, looking to the future, what are some, advancements that maybe you see coming or, about for the future?
And I completely agree with you in the advances in seating and comfort and protection of your skin. And I would like to see the same innovation put into motors and batteries and controllers, and to
Yes.
have the actual mobility base represent 21st century, not 1980s technology. Um,
Yes.
so I think a colleague said to me, I don't understand why my wheelchair can't be my digital control center no matter where I am, whether
Yeah.
I'm at home or outside. And I think there is, you know, batteries being the most important thing. Like
Yep.
that, the wheelchair industry should be making greater progress in
Yeah.
improving the quality, reliability, durability, range,
Yeah.
weight, all of that should be improving.
It's actually more expensive to use lead acid batteries
Yep.
because no one is using them. Everything is
Right.
lithium ion, and if the innovation is ready.
Right. So we should, and I don't think the industry is going to move until the consumer starts saying, I don't want to be stuck in lead acid batteries anymore.
Yeah.
And then I think you look at a product like the LUCI safety system, and
Yeah.
there's some incredible engineering going on there. And it's interesting how nobody would buy a new car today that doesn't have a backup camera or doesn't
Yeah.
have lane detection software or environmental safety. And yet, on a wheelchair, it's looked at as, oh, this is an expensive add on.
Yeah.
No, it's a way that the person riding a wheelchair has access to the same technology that a person sitting in a car has. So we need to up the expectations with regard to the access to technology around power mobility. And then in the manual wheelchair world, we've had a bit of a backslide in that there were materials like titanium and composites that, again, because of funding rules, they they're not funded,
Uh,
which is it, what's really crazy is they changed the fee schedule so that a material like titanium isn't a covered item. And then they further changed the accessibility. Like you used to be able to say, okay, if Medicare is going to buy my K5 chair, I can top it up to a K9 chair. And
yeah.
that's an allowable sale for the supplier. And they took that mechanism off the table.
Oh, jeez.
So now, if you want that K9 chair because it's easier on your shoulders, you do a bunch of transfers in and out of your car, you don't want to feel the every bump of the road when you're riding
Yeah.
around, you have to pay for it up front and hope you
Ah.
get reimbursed at the other end.
Oh,
And
jeez.
there's not a lot of people that have that kind of liquidity. So it's a combination of technology and then public policy that needs to be
Yeah.
updated to really meet the needs of the end users and not the needs of the suppliers and the manufacturers.
Yeah. Very well put. Yeah. Oh, Gene, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for this conversation. I really learned a lot, as always. And for our listeners, if they want to connect with you or learn more about your work, where can they go for more information?
To learn about our work at Independence Care System, It's icsny.org. And anyone is welcome to reach out to me directly by email. And it's JEAN dot MINKEL at icsny.org. Love to hear from
Awesome.
you.
Awesome. Thank you, Gene. And thank you, our listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with someone else who also might find it interesting. Until next time, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Owen. Invite me back.
Will do.